The scent of bergamot and jasmine lingered in the air as Olivia Zane arranged the glass bottles on the display shelf, each one catching the morning light that streamed through the boutique's windows. Maison de Parfum wasn't just where she worked, it was her sanctuary, a place where fragrances told stories and memories took liquid form. At 26, she had developed an uncanny ability to pair customers with their perfect scent, a talent her boss, Madame Claudette, often called olfactory matchmaking. What Olivia didn't know was that someone had been watching her perform this magic from afar. It was Tuesday morning, typically quiet at the high-end perfume boutique nestled in the corner of Westfield Plaza. Olivia hummed softly to herself as she updated the price tags on their newest collection. The delicate bell above the door chimed, announcing a customer. She looked up with her practiced smile, which momentarily faltered when she saw him. The man who entered was tall with broad shoulders that filled out his tailored navy suit impeccably. His dark hair was neatly styled, and there was a confidence in his stride that immediately commanded attention. But it was his eyes, intense, observant, and the color of aged whiskey that caught Olivia off guard. "Good morning," she said, recovering her professional demeanor. "Welcome to Maison de Parfum. I'm Olivia. Is there anything specific I can help you find today?" The man's expression softened into a smile. "I need a new signature scent, something that makes a statement without being overwhelming." "That's quite the balance to strike," Olivia replied, already mentally cataloging options. "May I ask your name, Daniel?" "Daniel Lancaster," he answered, his deep voice carrying a hint of warmth that didn't quite match his businessman exterior. What Olivia couldn't know was that Daniel Lancaster wasn't just any customer. He was the CEO of Lancaster Holdings, a global investment firm worth billions. His face rarely appeared in media, a deliberate choice to maintain privacy despite his fortune. And for the past month, he had walked past Maison de Parfum every Tuesday and Thursday, glancing through the window to catch a glimpse of the woman whose radiant smile and genuine interactions with customers had inexplicably captivated him. "Well, Daniel, finding your signature scent is a journey," Olivia explained, leading him toward a section of the boutique featuring darker bottles. "It should reflect who you are, but also perhaps who you aspire to be." Daniel watched her movements, the careful way she handled each bottle, the passion evident in her voice. "And how do you determine what reflects me when we've just met?" Olivia smiled, a genuine one that reached her hazel eyes. "That's where the art comes in. I observe, I listen, and then I make educated guesses. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions?" "Not at all," Daniel replied, intrigued. "You prefer mornings or evenings, mountains or ocean, coffee or tea?" Olivia asked, her questions seemingly random but purposeful. "Evenings. Ocean. Coffee black," he answered without hesitation. "Classical music or jazz?" Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Jazz, though classical has its moments." "Last question, are you drawn more to tradition or innovation?" "Both," he said thoughtfully. "You need to respect tradition while embracing innovation. One without the other leads to either stagnation or chaos." Olivia nodded, clearly pleased with his answers. She turned to a shelf and selected 3 bottles, placing them on the glass counter between them. "I'd like you to try these. Don't smell them from the bottle, let them develop on your skin." She took the first bottle, a deep amber glass with a wooden cap. "This is ambition and spice, notes of cardamom, cedar, and a hint of sea salt." She carefully sprayed it on a strip of paper and handed it to him. Daniel inhaled deeply, his expression thoughtful. "Now your wrist," she instructed, and he obliged, rolling up his sleeve slightly. Olivia tried not to notice the expensive watch that peeked from beneath his cuff or the way his forearm tensed as she applied the fragrance to his skin. She was professional, always professional, even when the customer made her pulse quicken unexpectedly. "Give it a moment," she advised, moving on to present the next two options: a fresher, citrus-forward scent called Metropolitan, and a deeper, more complex fragrance named Nocturne. As Daniel considered each option, the door chimed again. A middle-aged woman entered, her eyes lighting up when she spotted Olivia. "Mrs. Kensington, your special order arrived yesterday," Olivia called out warmly. "Just one moment," she added to Daniel before attending to her regular customer. Daniel watched as she retrieved a small package from behind the counter, the way her face lit up as she described the exclusive French perfume to Mrs. Kensington. There was something genuine about her enthusiasm that set her apart from the typical salesperson. She wasn't just selling fragrance, she was sharing a passion. When Olivia returned to him, Daniel had made his decision. "The third one, Nocturne. It's unexpected, complex." "Excellent choice," she said, nodding approvingly. "It's actually one of my personal favorites. Not many men can carry it well, but I think it suits you perfectly." "High praise from someone who clearly knows her craft," Daniel commented. "I'll take it." As Olivia wrapped the purchase in the boutique's signature midnight blue paper, she couldn't help but wonder about this man. He was polite, thoughtful, and carried himself with quiet authority. Not like some of the wealthy clients who came in demanding the most expensive bottle simply because of the price tag. "Will this be all for today?" she asked, tying a silver ribbon around the package with practiced fingers. Daniel hesitated as if considering something. "Actually, I'd be interested in learning more about fragrances. Do you offer any kind of consultation services, private sessions to explore different scent profiles?" Olivia looked up, surprised. "We do, though they're typically booked for special occasions. Are you looking for something specific?" "I'm hosting an important event next month," he improvised smoothly. "I'd like to create a unique atmosphere with the right scents. Would you be able to advise on that?" "Certainly." "We could schedule a private consultation after hours," she suggested, pulling out the boutique's appointment book. "What kind of event is it?" "A charity gala," Daniel replied, the lie coming easily. There was no gala, at least not yet, but the idea began forming in his mind as soon as he said it. A reason to see her again, to learn more about the woman who seemed to understand people through their scent preferences. "Sounds wonderful. How about next Tuesday at 6:30, after we close?" "Perfect," Daniel agreed, taking the elegantly wrapped package. "Thank you, Olivia. You've been incredibly helpful." As he left, Olivia felt a strange mixture of professional satisfaction and personal curiosity. There was something about Daniel Lancaster that intrigued her, though she quickly dismissed the thought. Customers came and went, even the interesting ones. What she didn't notice was Daniel pausing outside the boutique, looking back through the window with a smile before continuing on his way. For the first time in months, he was looking forward to something that had nothing to do with business acquisitions or investment strategies. Olivia finished her shift that evening with Daniel still lingering in her thoughts. As she locked up the boutique, her coworker and friend Naomi nudged her playfully. "That guy this morning, total dreamboat," Naomi remarked, "and he couldn't take his eyes off you." Olivia rolled her eyes. "He was looking at the perfumes, Naomi. That's kind of the point when you're shopping for one. MMHMM. And I suppose he specifically requested you for that consultation because of your expertise alone." Naomi made air quotes around the word consultation. "Yes, actually," Olivia insisted, though a small part of her wondered if there had been something more to his interest. "Besides, men like that don't usually go for retail workers like us." "Men like what? Handsome? Well-dressed, wealthy," Olivia clarified. "Did you see his watch?" That was a limited edition Patek Philippe. Probably costs more than my annual salary." Naomi whistled low. "Well, maybe he's just a guy with expensive taste who found something he likes or someone." Olivia shook her head as they parted ways at the subway entrance. "See you tomorrow, hopeless romantic." Her tiny apartment in Brooklyn welcomed her with familiar comfort shelves lined with books about perfumery, a small collection of rare scents she'd acquired over the years, and a workspace where she occasionally experimented with creating her own fragrances. It was her dream to someday have her own line, but for now, working at Maison de Parfum was as close as she could get. As she prepared a simple dinner of pasta and vegetables, her phone buzzed with a text from her younger sister, Emma. "Mom's birthday next week. Gift ideas." "Also, did you make any progress on finding a +1 for Cousin Rachel's wedding?" Olivia sighed. Her family's constant concern about her single status had intensified since her cousin's engagement announcement. At 26, she was practically considered a spinster by her traditional relatives. "Thinking art book or silk scarf for Mom," she texted back. "And no progress on the date front. Might just go solo." Emma's response was immediate. "Nuo, Mom will spend the whole reception trying to set you up with Dad's golf buddy's son." Again. Olivia grimaced at the memory of the last family function where her mother had played matchmaker. It had been painfully awkward for everyone involved. "I'll figure something out," she replied noncommittally before setting her phone aside. As she ate her dinner in the quiet of her apartment, her mind drifted back to Daniel Lancaster and their upcoming consultation. It was just business, she reminded herself firmly. Just another customer service interaction in a long line of them. Yet when she fell asleep that night, it was the memory of intense amber eyes and the lingering scent of nocturne that followed her into her dreams. The following Tuesday arrived with unexpected quickness. Olivia had spent the weekend researching event scenting, preparing notes and suggestions for various approaches Daniel might consider for his charity gala. She'd even called in a favor with a supplier to procure samples of exclusive fragrances not normally available to the public. Throughout the day, she found herself glancing at the clock more often than usual, her stomach fluttering nervously as closing time approached. Madame Claudette had approved the after-hours consultation, impressed that Olivia had secured what appeared to be a high-profile client. "Remember, darling, ambience is everything," Madame Claudette advised in her thick French accent as she prepared to leave. "A proper scent experience can transform an ordinary event into something magical." "I've prepared thoroughly," Olivia assured her. "I have samples for ambient scenting, personal fragrances for guest gifts, even some ideas for scented elements in the catering." Madame Claudette smiled approvingly. "This is why you are my best consultant. You understand that perfume is not just something you wear, it is an experience, a memory in the making." At exactly 6:30, as Olivia was arranging the sample bottles on the consultation table, the boutique door opened. Daniel entered, looking even more striking than she remembered in a charcoal suit that suggested important meetings had filled his day. He carried a sleek leather portfolio and what appeared to be a bakery box. "I hope I'm not late," he said, glancing at his watch. "Right on time," Olivia assured him, gesturing to the seating area she'd prepared. "I've set everything up for us." "I brought dessert," Daniel explained, lifting the box slightly. "I realized we might be here through dinner time, and these are from Bellini's. I've been told their cannoli are worth breaking any diet for." Olivia was touched by the thoughtful gesture. "That's very kind of you. Bellini's is actually my favorite bakery in the city." Daniel smiled, looking pleased. "Mine too. Shall we begin?" For the next hour, they discussed various approaches to scenting his fictional charity gala. Olivia presented different concepts, from subtle ambient diffusion to more pronounced statement pieces. Daniel asked intelligent questions, showing genuine interest in the science and art behind her suggestions. The key is to create layers, Olivia explained, warming to her subject. You want something welcoming in the entrance, perhaps bergamot and neroli to create an uplifting first impression. Then in the main space, something more complex but not overwhelming notes that complement the food being served without competing with it. And what would you suggest for the purpose of the event? Daniel asked. It's a fundraiser for educational initiatives in underserved communities. Olivia considered this new detail, impressed by the cause. For that, I'd recommend something that evokes both optimism and groundedness. Perhaps a blend with citrus top notes for the brightness of potential, heart notes of jasmine or rose for growth and development, and a base of sandalwood or cedar to represent stability and foundation. Daniel watched her as she spoke, captivated by her enthusiasm and expertise. You're remarkably good at this, translating concepts into sensory experiences. It's what I love about Perfumery, Olivia admitted. Scent is the most direct path to emotion and memory. The right fragrance can communicate what words sometimes can't. As their conversation continued, they naturally drifted from the fictional gala to more personal topics. They discovered shared interests in jazz music and French literature. Daniel spoke of his travels, carefully editing out details that might reveal his wealth, while Olivia shared stories of growing up in a large, boisterous family in Connecticut. So, how does someone develop such a sophisticated nose? Daniel asked as they finally turned their attention to the cannoli he'd brought. Olivia smiled, accepting the pastry he offered. My grandmother was a perfumer in a small town in southern France. Every summer I visited her, and she would teach me to identify different scents blindfolded. It became our special game. Is she the reason you work here? Partly, Olivia nodded. She passed away when I was 16, but by then I was already hooked. I studied chemistry in college with a minor in business, always planning to somehow make my way into the perfume industry. And the long-term plan? Daniel asked, genuinely curious. Olivia hesitated. She rarely shared her dreams with customers, preferring to maintain professional boundaries, but something about Daniel's attentive gaze made her want to open up. Eventually, I'd love to create my own line of fragrances. Nothing massive. I'm not trying to be the next Chanel or Dior, just something small, personal, with stories behind each scent. She took a bite of cannoli, embarrassed by her admission. It's probably just a pipe dream. I don't think so, Daniel said seriously. The way you talk about fragrance, it's clear you understand both the art and the science. That's rare. Their eyes met across the table, and for a moment, Olivia felt a connection that went beyond customer and consultant. Then, remembering herself, she glanced at her watch. Oh, it's nearly 9. I had no idea we'd been talking so long. Daniel looked surprised as well. I've completely monopolized your evening. I apologize. No apology necessary, Olivia assured him, beginning to gather the samples. This was actually one of the most enjoyable consultations I've had. Enough to consider a follow-up session? Daniel asked, his tone carefully casual. There are still some details we haven't finalized about the ambient scenting approach. Olivia knew they had covered everything thoroughly, but found herself nodding anyway. Of course. Would Thursday evening work? Same time. Thursday is perfect, Daniel agreed, helping her clean up despite her protests that it wasn't necessary. As they prepared to leave, Daniel hesitated at the door. I've just realized I should give you my contact information. in case anything comes up. They exchanged phone numbers, the interaction feeling strangely significant despite its practicality. When Daniel finally left, Olivia locked the boutique behind them, watching through the window as he walked to the curb where a sleek black car waited. A driver stepped out to open the door for him. Definitely wealthy, she thought, but there was something refreshingly unpretentious about him despite the obvious signs of money. She pushed away the flutter of attraction she felt. Professional boundaries existed for a reason, and she had learned long ago not to romanticize customer interactions. Still, as she rode the subway home that night, she couldn't help but feel that something had shifted in her carefully ordered world. And when her phone buzzed with a simple text, "Thank you for a fascinating evening. Looking forward to Thursday." Daniel, she found herself smiling like a teenager with a crush. Thursday arrived with an unexpected complication. Olivia had just finished helping a customer when Madame Claudette approached her with an apologetic expression. "Olivia, darling, I need to ask a tremendous favor. The buyers from Nordstrom have requested a meeting tonight very last minute, very important for our expansion plans. I need you to join me." Olivia's heart sank. "Tonight, I have that follow-up consultation at 6:30. "Ah, yes, with your charity gala client." Madame Claudette frowned. "Could Naomi handle it, perhaps? The client specifically requested me," Olivia explained, trying to mask her disappointment. "But I understand the Nordstrom account is priority." Madame Claudette squeezed her shoulder sympathetically. "This is why you are my right hand. Call your client, reschedule. Perhaps offer a special discount for the inconvenience." Olivia nodded, retreating to the back office to make the call. Her finger hovered over Daniel's contact information before she decided a text felt too impersonal. She dialed his number, unsure if he would even answer during a workday. He picked up on the second ring. "Daniel Lancaster." "Daniel, it's Olivia from Maison de Parfum," she began, hating how formal she sounded. "I'm so sorry for the short notice, but I need to reschedule our consultation tonight. A major buyer meeting came up that I can't miss." There was a brief silence on the other end. "I understand completely. Business priorities come first." "I feel terrible about this," Olivia continued. "I'd be happy to offer you a complimentary bottle of any fragrance under $300 for the inconvenience." "That's not necessary," Daniel assured her, "but I would like to reschedule. When are you available?" Olivia checked the boutique's appointment book. "I could do Tuesday again. Same time." "Tuesday works," Daniel agreed, though she thought she detected a note of disappointment in his voice. "Good luck with your buyer meeting." "Thank you for understanding," Olivia said sincerely. "I was really looking forward to our session." "As was I," Daniel replied, his voice warming slightly. "Until Tuesday, then." After hanging up, Olivia tried to refocus on preparing for the Nordstrom meeting but found her thoughts continually drifting to Daniel. She chided herself for the unprofessional disappointment she felt. He was a client, nothing more. The connection she'd imagined was probably one-sided, a product of her overactive imagination and Naomi's romantic speculations. The Nordstrom meeting ran late into the evening, and though it went exceptionally well, the buyers were enthusiastic about featuring Maison de Parfum in their luxury department. Olivia couldn't shake a lingering sense of regret about the canceled consultation. As she finally left the restaurant where they'd conducted the meeting, the cool night air was a welcome relief after hours of professional smiling and careful negotiation. She checked her phone, finding a missed call from her sister and, surprisingly, a text from Daniel. "In case your meeting finished early and you're in need of a proper dinner, Vincenzo's on 9th has excellent risotto. They're open until 11. Olivia stared at the message, sent 2 hours earlier. It wasn't exactly an invitation, more a thoughtful suggestion. She glanced at her watch, 10:30 p.m. On impulse, she typed back, "Meeting just ended. Is the risotto really worth a late dinner?" His response came almost immediately. "Absolutely. I just finished mine. They have a table for another 30 minutes if you're interested." Olivia hesitated only briefly before responding, "On my way." Vincenzo's was a small, elegant restaurant with warm lighting and discreet service. When Olivia gave her name to the hostess, she was immediately led to a corner table where Daniel sat alone, a portfolio of papers set aside as she approached. He stood to greet her, his smile genuine. "I'm glad you could make it. I hope I'm not keeping you from heading home after what was probably a long day." "You're not," Olivia assured him, taking the offered seat. "And after hours of talking perfume marketing strategies, actual food sounds wonderful. The meeting went well, I hope." "Very well," she confirmed as a waiter appeared with a menu. "Will likely be featured in their luxury department stores nationwide." "That's excellent," Daniel said, sounding genuinely pleased for her. "You should celebrate." "I suppose this is my celebration," Olivia replied, gesturing to the elegant restaurant, "though I feel a bit underdressed." She was still in her work clothes, a simple black dress with a scarf that bore the Maison de Parfum logo. "You look perfectly appropriate," Daniel assured her, his eyes warm. "And considerably more refreshed than most people after a high-stakes business meeting." Olivia ordered the recommended risotto and a glass of wine, then turned her attention fully to Daniel. "Were you working late as well?" she asked, nodding toward his portfolio. "Always," he admitted with a rueful smile. "But I'm trying to be better about actually stopping to enjoy dinner instead of eating at my desk." "What exactly do you do, Daniel, if you don't mind my asking?" He hesitated, and Olivia wondered if she'd overstepped. But then he answered, "Investment management, primarily. My company handles portfolios for various clients." It was true, if dramatically understated. Lancaster Holdings managed billions in assets for corporations, governments, and ultra-high net worth individuals. Daniel had become CEO at 30 after his father's retirement, doubling the firm's value in the 5 years since. "That sounds challenging," Olivia commented. "Dealing with other people's money must come with a lot of pressure." "It does," Daniel agreed. "But it's also rewarding when you help clients achieve their financial goals. Not unlike what you do, really." "Me? How so?" "You help people find what they're looking for, even when they can't quite articulate it themselves," he explained. "You listen, observe, and then guide them to the right choice. That's essentially what good investment management is about too." Olivia considered this perspective. "I've never thought of it that way, but you're right, though I suspect the stakes are considerably higher in your world." Daniel smiled enigmatically. "Different stakes, perhaps, but finding the right scent can be quite important to people too." Their conversation flowed easily through dinner, touching on books they'd read recently, places they hoped to visit someday, and their shared love of classical jazz. Olivia found herself laughing more than she had in months, drawn to Daniel's dry wit and thoughtful observations. When the check arrived, Daniel reached for it automatically. "Please let me," he said. "This was my suggestion, after all. We could split it," Olivia offered, reaching for her purse. Daniel shook his head. "Consider it a professional courtesy between colleagues who both had to work late." Something in his tone made it clear this was important to him, so Olivia relented with a grateful smile. "Thank you. I'll get the next one." The words hung between them, an implicit acknowledgement that they both hoped there would be a next one. The realization made Olivia's cheeks warm. As they left the restaurant, the night air had grown cooler. Daniel immediately noticed Olivia's slight shiver. "Where do you live?" "I can have my driver take you home," he offered. "Brooklyn," she replied. "But that's completely unnecessary. I'm used to the subway." At nearly midnight, Daniel frowned. "Please, I'd feel much better knowing you got home safely." Before she could protest further, a black luxury sedan pulled up to the curb. The driver, an older gentleman with a kind face, emerged and opened the rear door. "Good evening, Mr. Lancaster," he said respectfully. "Evening, Howard. We'll be dropping Miss Zane home first," Daniel instructed, gesturing for Olivia to enter. The car's interior was plush leather, immaculately maintained. As they pulled away from the curb, Olivia couldn't help but feel slightly out of place in such luxury. "This is very kind of you," she said, "but really not necessary." "It's no trouble," Daniel assured her. "Howard was picking me up anyway." They rode in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Daniel spoke again. "I'm looking forward to our rescheduled consultation on Tuesday." "So am I," Olivia admitted. "Though I think we've covered most of the technical aspects of event scenting already." Daniel's eyes met hers in the dimness of the car. "Perhaps we could discuss some other aspects of fragrance then. Your personal creative process, maybe. You mentioned wanting to develop your own line someday." Olivia was surprised he'd remembered that detail. "You'd really be interested in that?" "Very much so," he confirmed. "I find your perspective on scent fascinating." When they arrived at her apartment, building a modest walk-up in a decent, but certainly not upscale neighborhood, Daniel instructed Howard to wait before turning to Olivia. "Thank you for joining me tonight," he said. "It turned what would have been a solitary meal into a highlight of my week." "I should be thanking you," Olivia replied, "for the recommendation and the ride home." There was a moment of charged silence, both of them aware that the evening had shifted something between them. They were no longer simply consultant and client. "Good night, Olivia," Daniel finally said, his voice soft. "Good night, Daniel," she echoed, reluctantly exiting the car. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Olivia heard the car remain idling below, waiting until she was safely inside before pulling away. The considerate gesture made her smile despite her attempt to remain practical about whatever was developing between them. When she checked her phone before bed, there was already a message from him. "Thank you again for your company tonight. It was unexpectedly perfect." Olivia fell asleep with those words echoing in her mind, trying and failing to suppress the hope blossoming in her chest. The weekend passed in a blur of family obligations and errands. Olivia found herself checking her phone more often than usual, but Daniel didn't text again. She told herself this was normal. They had their next meeting scheduled, after all, but couldn't help feeling a twinge of disappointment. On Monday morning, a delivery arrived at Maison de Parfum, a simple arrangement of white roses and lavender with a note that read, "Looking forward to tomorrow evening." "DL, someone has an admirer," Naomi teased as Olivia read the card. "And those are Emerson roses, not cheap. Spill the details." Olivia downplayed the situation, explaining that Daniel was simply a client who appreciated her professional expertise. But Madame Claudette, who had overheard, gave her a knowing look. "When I was your age," the older woman remarked, "I had a client who sent flowers. 6 months later, he was my husband." Sometimes the heart recognizes what it wants before the head admits it. Olivia brushed off the comment, but found herself touching the delicate petals throughout the day, their subtle fragrance a constant reminder of the man who had sent them. Tuesday evening couldn't arrive fast enough. Olivia had prepared thoroughly, bringing samples of her own experimental fragrances, something she rarely shared with anyone, and arriving early to set up the consultation area with even more care than before. At exactly 6:30, the boutique door opened and Daniel stepped inside. This time, he wore no suit but instead dark jeans and a cashmere sweater that somehow made him look both more approachable and more handsome. "No meetings today?" Olivia asked, gesturing to his casual attire. "I took the afternoon off," he admitted. "I thought perhaps we could be more comfortable for this session." The consultation began professionally enough, with Olivia presenting various fragrance options for his fictional charity gala. But it soon became clear that both of them were more interested in deeper conversation than in event planning. "I brought something to show you," Olivia said finally, retrieving a small case from beneath the counter. "These are some of my personal creations. They're not refined enough for commercial production, but I'd love to experience them," Daniel said earnestly. She opened the case to reveal 5 small vials, each labeled with a simple name. "These represent different chapters of my life," she explained, selecting one labeled Awakening. "This was my first serious attempt at composition." Daniel closed his eyes as she waved the scent strip beneath his nose. "Grapefruit," he identified, "and something green. Galbanum with jasmine and a hint of. Is that vetiver?" Olivia's eyes widened in surprise. "You have an excellent nose." "I've been paying attention during our sessions," he said with a smile. "What does this one represent?" "My first year in New York," she explained. "The citrus is the excitement, the green notes are the unfamiliarity, and the base is the grounding I had to find within myself." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "It captures that perfectly, the disorientation and exhilaration of new beginnings." They continued through her collection, Daniel offering insightful observations about each composition. When they reached the final vial, labeled simply Potential, Olivia hesitated. "This one isn't finished," she admitted. "It's my most recent work, what I imagine could be the first in my own line if I ever get there." Daniel breathed in the scent deeply. "It's beautiful," he said sincerely. "There's something both familiar and innovative about it. What's missing?" Olivia sighed. "I don't know exactly. It needs more depth, perhaps, something unexpected to make it truly distinctive." "I think it's already distinctive," Daniel countered, "because it has your perspective infused in it." Their eyes met, and Olivia felt the professional pretense between them slipping away entirely. "Daniel," she began carefully, "I've enjoyed our sessions immensely, but I'm starting to think they're not really about fragrance consulting anymore." A slow smile spread across his face. "Perceptive as always," he acknowledged. "Though in my defense I did genuinely want to learn about fragrance. That part wasn't a pretense." "But the charity gala," Olivia prompted. "Doesn't exist," he admitted. "At least, it didn't when I first mentioned it. Though I'm now considering organizing one, thanks to your excellent suggestions." Olivia tried to look disapproving but found herself fighting a smile instead. "So why all the elaborate excuse-making? You could have just asked me to dinner." "Would you have said yes?" Daniel challenged gently. "To a complete stranger who walked into your boutique," Olivia considered this. "Probably not," she conceded. "I try to maintain professional boundaries." "As do I," Daniel said, "which is why I wanted to get to know you first to see if the connection I felt was real." "And?" Olivia asked, her heart beating faster. "It's very real," he said simply. "At least for me." "For me too," she admitted softly. The confession hung between them for a moment before Daniel spoke again. "Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night?" "Not as a consultant and client, but as Olivia and Daniel." "I'd like that," Olivia replied, unable to suppress her smile any longer. They spent another hour talking, all pretense of a professional consultation abandoned. When they finally prepared to leave, Daniel helped her gather her fragrance samples with careful hands. "These are remarkable," he said seriously. "You have a genuine talent, Olivia." "Thank you," she said, touched by his sincerity. Creating them is when I feel most myself. Daniel nodded understandingly. That's how I feel about certain aspects of my work too, when I'm building something meaningful rather than just managing what already exists. Outside the boutique, his car waited as usual. Before opening the door for her, Daniel paused. "There's something I should tell you before tomorrow," he said, suddenly serious. "About my work." Olivia looked at him questioningly. "I'm not just in investment management," Daniel began. "I'm the CEO of Lancaster Holdings." The name registered immediately. Lancaster Holdings was one of the largest investment firms in the world, frequently mentioned in financial news. "Oh," Olivia said, processing this revelation. "That's significant. I should have been more forthcoming," Daniel continued. "But I've found that once people know, it changes how they interact with me. I wanted you to know me as just Daniel first." Olivia nodded slowly. "I understand, though it explains a few things: the watch, the car, Howard." "Does it change things?" he asked, genuine concern in his eyes. "For tomorrow," Olivia considered the question carefully. "It's intimidating," she admitted. "But no, it doesn't change my wanting to have dinner with you." Relief visibly washed over him. "I'm glad. Because you're seeing me as just Daniel has been the most refreshing thing to happen to me in years." As Howard drove them through the city streets, Olivia's mind raced with this new information. Daniel Lancaster wasn't just wealthy, he was in a different stratosphere entirely. Yet in their conversations, he had been genuine, attentive, and refreshingly unpretentious. The disconnect was jarring. "You're very quiet," Daniel observed as they approached her building. "Just processing," Olivia assured him. "It's not every day you discover your Perfume client is a billionaire CEO." Daniel winced slightly. "When you put it that way, it sounds rather dramatic." "It is dramatic," she pointed out with a small laugh. "But I meant what I said. It doesn't change my wanting to know you better." When they arrived at her apartment, Daniel walked her to the door this time. In the dim light of the building's entrance, he looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Until tomorrow, then," he said softly. "Until tomorrow," she echoed. This time, when he leaned forward, it was to place a gentle kiss on her cheek, brief, but unmistakably significant. The gesture left Olivia's skin tingling long after his car had disappeared from view. Inside her apartment, she leaned against the closed door, trying to make sense of the evening's revelations. Daniel Lancaster, billionaire CEO, had been coming to her boutique for fragrance consultations that were merely a pretext to spend time with her. It seemed like the plot of a romance novel, not something that happened in real life, especially not to ordinary people like her. Her phone buzzed with a text from him. "7 p.m. tomorrow, I'll send Howard." Olivia smiled as she replied, "7 p.m. is perfect, but I can meet you at the restaurant. You don't need to send a car." His response came quickly. "Humor me. I enjoy knowing you're not battling rush-hour subway crowds." It was a small thing, but it touched her, his genuine concern for her comfort. "All right," she conceded. "Thank you." That night, as she prepared for bed, Olivia tried to temper her expectations. Daniel was worlds away from her in terms of lifestyle and resources. Even if there was a genuine connection between them, could anything meaningful really develop across such a vast divide? Yet the memory of his thoughtful observations about her fragrances, the way he listened when she spoke, and that gentle kiss on her cheek suggested possibilities that were hard to dismiss. Whatever happened next, Olivia decided she would approach it with openness rather than preconceived notions. The following evening, Olivia spent more time than usual preparing for her dinner with Daniel. She chose a simple but elegant emerald dress that brought out the green flecks in her hazel eyes, paired with the only designer item she owned, a vintage Hermes scarf she'd found at a consignment shop years ago. At precisely 7 p.m., Howard arrived in the now familiar black sedan. This time, however, Daniel wasn't inside. Instead, Howard handed her an envelope as she settled into the back seat. "Mr. Lancaster asked me to give you this," he explained. "He's meeting you at the restaurant." Inside the envelope was a handwritten note. "Olivia, I'm looking forward to our first official date. No pretenses, no consultations, just us getting to know each other better. See you soon." Daniel. The restaurant turned out to be an exclusive rooftop establishment with panoramic views of the city. As Olivia was escorted to the table, she spotted Daniel waiting for her, standing as she approached. He looked striking in a tailored blazer over a crisp shirt, but it was his warm smile that caught her attention. "You look beautiful," he said simply as she joined him. "Thank you," Olivia replied, taking in the spectacular view. "This place is amazing." "I hoped you'd like it," Daniel said. "They're known for using locally sourced ingredients, and the chef creates dishes with aromatic complexity that I thought might appeal to you." The fact that he'd chosen the restaurant with her sensory preferences in mind touched Olivia deeply. It was a thoughtful gesture that revealed how closely he'd been paying attention to her. As they settled into conversation over expertly prepared food and wine, Olivia found herself relaxing despite the opulent surroundings. Daniel had a way of making her feel at ease, focusing completely on their conversation rather than the trappings of wealth around them. "So now that I know who you really are," Olivia ventured during a pause, "I have to ask, why the elaborate ruse? A man in your position could simply have asked me out directly." Daniel considered her question seriously. "2 reasons," he finally said. "First, I wanted to get to know you in a context where my position wasn't the primary thing you knew about me. And second," he hesitated, "I wasn't entirely sure you'd say yes to a date with someone you'd just met. The consultation gave me a legitimate reason to see you again." "Clever," Olivia acknowledged with a small smile. "Though I'm still trying to understand what interested you in the first place. Surely you meet fascinating people all the time." "I do meet many people," Daniel agreed, "but genuine people, that's much rarer in my world than you might think." He leaned forward slightly. "The first time I walked past your boutique, I saw you helping an elderly gentleman. You spent nearly an hour with him, even though it was clear he probably wasn't going to make an expensive purchase. Your patience, your enthusiasm, it was completely authentic." Olivia remembered the customer. He described a widower looking for a fragrance that reminded him of his late wife. "Mr. Abernathy," she said softly. "He was trying to find something that captured his wife's favorite flower, lily of the valley. Did he find it, eventually?" "It took 3 visits, but we found a vintage Diorissimo that made him cry when he smelled it." Daniel nodded. "That's precisely what caught my attention. You weren't just selling perfume, you were helping him preserve a memory." "After that, I found myself walking past the boutique whenever I could, watching you work. Each time, I saw the same genuine care." "That sounds a bit like stalking," Olivia teased gently, though she was touched by his explanation. "Observing from public property," Daniel corrected with a smile. "But I take your point. It was unusual behavior for me. I'm typically much more direct." "And now, are you being completely direct with me?" Olivia asked, meeting his gaze steadily. "Yes," Daniel said without hesitation. "I'm attracted to you, Olivia. Not just physically, though you're certainly beautiful. I'm drawn to your passion, your authenticity, your talent. I want to see where this connection between us might lead if you're willing." The honesty in his voice made Olivia's heart race. "I feel the connection too," she admitted. "But I have concerns." About the difference in our circumstances, Daniel guessed. Yes, Olivia acknowledged. Your world is so different from mine, I can't help wondering if that's sustainable in the long run. A fair concern, Daniel conceded. But I think what matters most is whether we share fundamental values, not whether our bank accounts match. And do we? Olivia challenged gently. Share those values, Daniel considered this thoughtfully. I believe we both value authenticity, creativity, and meaningful connection. We both appreciate the importance of sensory experience and beauty, and neither of us seems particularly impressed by status for its own sake. He paused. But these are early observations. Learning each other's values takes time. Time I'm willing to invest, Olivia found herself saying, surprised by her own certainty. Daniel's smile was radiant. I'm very glad to hear that. As dinner progressed to dessert and coffee, their conversation deepened. Daniel shared stories of growing up as the heir to a financial empire, the pressure to succeed, and his determination to use his position to drive positive change in the world. Olivia told him about her large family, her grandmother's influence, and her dreams of creating fragrances that told meaningful stories. When the evening eventually drew to a close, neither seemed ready for it to end. Would you like to take a walk? Daniel suggested. The High Line isn't far from here, and it's beautiful at night. The elevated park was indeed magical in the evening, with its artful lighting and views of the city. As they strolled along the pathway, Daniel tentatively reached for Olivia's hand. She intertwined her fingers with his, the simple contact feeling both thrilling and natural. I have a confession, Daniel said as they paused to look out over the Hudson River. Remember the charity gala I invented as an excuse for our consultations? The non-existent one, yes, Olivia replied with amusement. I've decided to make it real, he revealed. A fundraiser for arts education in underserved communities, and I'd like you to help design the sensory experience officially this time. Olivia looked at him in surprise. Are you serious? Completely, Daniel confirmed. Your ideas were too good to waste on a fictional event, and it's a cause I believe in, making arts education accessible to everyone. I'd be honored, Olivia said sincerely. When would this happen? 2 months from now, Daniel replied. Enough time to plan properly, but soon enough to maintain momentum. As they continued their walk, the conversation turned to practical details of the event, their professional expertise meshing in a way that felt natural and productive. By the time they reached the end of the High Line, they had sketched the outline of what promised to be an extraordinary sensory experience. This has been a perfect evening, Olivia said as they returned to where Howard waited with the car. I think so too, Daniel agreed, turning to face her. In the gentle glow of the park's lighting, his expression was open and hopeful. May I see you again soon? I'd like that, Olivia replied softly. This time when Daniel leaned in, it wasn't for a kiss on the cheek. His lips met hers in a gentle but deliberate kiss that sent warmth cascading through her entire body. When they separated, his amber eyes held a question. Olivia's answer was to reach up and draw him back to her for another kiss, deeper this time, one that expressed the connection that had been building between them since that first day in the boutique. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of discovery. Daniel and Olivia fell into a rhythm of dinner dates, long walks through the city, and quiet evenings at his penthouse apartment with its breathtaking views. They discovered shared tastes in music, art, and literature, along with complementary differences that kept their conversations endlessly engaging. Working together on the charity gala gave them a shared project that combined their talents. Daniel handled the logistics and funding, while Olivia created a comprehensive sensory experience. that would make the event truly memorable. She designed custom fragrances for different areas of the venue, coordinated with the caterer on aromatic food pairings, and even created scented invitations that hinted at the sensory journey attendees would experience. Throughout their collaboration, Daniel was consistently impressed by Olivia's creativity and attention to detail. "You should be running your own fragrance house," he told her one evening as they reviewed her proposals in his home office. "Someday, perhaps," she replied, though the dream still seemed distant despite her careful savings. "What's holding you back?" Daniel asked. "Besides capital." Olivia considered the question seriously. "Experience, for one thing. I've worked in retail and consultation, but not in creation or production at scale. And connections, the fragrance industry is still quite traditional in many ways. Breaking in requires the right introductions." Daniel nodded thoughtfully, but said nothing more on the subject that night. As the gala approached, Olivia found herself spending more time at Lancaster Holdings' offices, coordinating with the event team. It was there that she began to fully comprehend the scope of Daniel's world. The respect he commanded was evident in every interaction, yet she noticed how he treated everyone from executive vice presidents to the maintenance staff with the same consistent courtesy. "Your team really respects you," Olivia observed one afternoon after a planning meeting. "I hope it's mutual," Daniel replied. "A company is only as strong as the people who comprise it, and acknowledging that fact is just good business." It was remarks like these that continued to reveal Daniel's character to her. His wealth hadn't isolated him from basic human decency. If anything, it had heightened his awareness of how power should be wielded responsibly. The night of the gala arrived with all the anticipation of a major event. The venue, a renovated historical building in Chelsea, had been transformed into a multisensory experience that guided guests through a carefully orchestrated journey of scent, sound, and taste. Olivia wore a midnight blue gown that Daniel had insisted on having made for her by a renowned designer. "Consider it your uniform for the evening," he'd said, when she protested the extravagance. "You're as much the creator of this experience as anyone." As guests began to arrive, a mix of New York's financial elite, arts patrons, and educators from the programs that would benefit from the fundraiser, Olivia felt a momentary flash of insecurity. These people operated in Daniel's world, not hers. Daniel sensed her tension and squeezed her hand reassuringly. "They're about to experience something extraordinary because of your vision," he reminded her. "You belong here more than anyone." The event was a tremendous success. Guests moved through the space with expressions of wonder, experiencing how different fragrance compositions could transform their perception of art, music, and food. By the end of the evening, the fundraising goal had been exceeded by nearly 40%, and Olivia had received countless compliments on the innovative approach. "You've created something truly special," Daniel told her as the last guests departed. "Everyone is talking about the sensory journey you designed." Olivia smiled, exhausted but deeply satisfied. "It was a team effort." "A team you led brilliantly," he corrected, pulling her into a private alcove away from the cleanup crew. "I'm so proud of you." The sincerity in his voice warmed her. "Thank you for trusting me with this." "I have something for you," Daniel said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He withdrew a small box tied with a ribbon. "A thank you gift." Curious, Olivia opened it to find a vintage crystal perfume bottle, clearly an antique of significant value. But it was what accompanied it that took her breath away, a formal letter offering her a 6-month paid sabbatical from Maison de Parfum to study with one of France's most prestigious perfumers. "Daniel," she gasped, "how did you? This is impossible." Morris Blanchard hasn't taken a student in 15 years. Not impossible, Daniel corrected gently. Just difficult to arrange. I showed him your compositions from the gala. He was impressed enough to make an exception. Olivia stared at the letter, emotions overwhelming her. This opportunity was beyond anything she could have arranged herself, a chance to learn from a living legend in the perfume world, to refine her skills under expert guidance. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say you'll go, Daniel urged. This is your dream, Olivia. I've arranged everything with Madame Claudette. She'll hold your position, though I suspect after studying with Blanchard, you might be ready for something more. But what about us? Olivia asked, suddenly realizing what 6 months apart would mean for their still new relationship. Daniel smiled. Paris is a short flight from New York. I have business in Europe regularly. And he hesitated. I thought I might come stay for a few weeks toward the end of your program, if you'd want that. The thoughtfulness of the gesture, offering her this opportunity, without trying to constrain her, with his presence confirmed what Olivia had been feeling for weeks but hadn't yet voiced. I love you, she said simply, the words emerging with perfect clarity. Daniel's expression softened with emotion. I love you too, Olivia, more than I thought possible when I first walked into your boutique. Their kiss was tender, a promise of futures aligning despite the temporary separation ahead. When they finally parted, Olivia looked again at the letter in her hand. I'll go, she decided, and I'll make the most of every moment of this opportunity. I know you will, Daniel said confidently. The 6 months that followed were transformative for Olivia. Studying with Morris Blanchard expanded her technical skills and artistic vision beyond what she had imagined possible. Living in Paris, immersed in the heartland of Perfume, she absorbed traditions and innovations alike, filling notebooks with formulations and reflections. Daniel visited as promised, first for quick weekends, and then for a 3-week stay where they explored the French countryside together, visiting lavender fields and small distilleries. Their relationship deepened through daily video calls when apart and intense, joy-filled reunions when together. When Olivia returned to New York, she brought with her not only enhanced skills but also a clear vision for her future. She resumed her position at Maison de Parfum temporarily, but spent her evenings developing business plans and fragrance concepts for her own line. Daniel supported her ambitions without trying to dictate their form. When she insisted on seeking independent investors rather than accepting his offer to fund her startup entirely, he respected her decision. I want to succeed on my own terms, she explained. Your belief in me means everything, but I need to know others see the value too. I understand, Daniel assured her, though I reserve the right to be your first customer. Olivia's presentations to potential investors went well. Her experience with Blanchard and the success of the charity gala had given her credibility that opened doors. 3 months after her return from Paris, she secured enough funding to launch Narrative Fragrances, a boutique line focused on scents that told personal stories. As her professional dreams began taking concrete form, her personal life with Daniel evolved as well. They maintained separate apartments but spent most nights together, usually at his penthouse with its state-of-the-art kitchen where they enjoyed cooking together. Have you considered moving in? Daniel asked one evening as they prepared dinner. Most of your things are here anyway. Olivia paused in chopping vegetables. Are you asking me to move in with you? I am, he confirmed. But only if it feels right to you. I know you value your independence. I do, Olivia acknowledged, but I also love waking up with you every morning. She set down her knife and turned to face him fully. Yes, I'd like to move in. Their cohabitation was remarkably smooth, each respecting the other's need for space while reveling in their shared life. Daniel converted a room in the penthouse into a perfume workshop for Olivia, complete with professional equipment and ventilation. As narrative fragrances moved from concept to reality, Olivia found herself working long hours to perfect her initial collection. Daniel was equally busy with Lancaster Holdings, but they protected their time together, maintaining date nights and weekend mornings regardless of workload. 1 year after the charity gala that had launched their collaboration, Daniel suggested recreating their first walk on the High Line to celebrate the anniversary. "For nostalgia's sake," he explained, "to remember where we began." It was a perfect spring evening, the elevated park blooming with early flowers. They strolled hand in hand, reminiscing about the past year and sharing hopes for the future. When they reached the spot where they'd first kissed, Daniel stopped, turning to face Olivia with an expression she couldn't quite read. "This year with you has been the happiest of my life," he said, his voice unusually solemn. "You've brought meaning and joy to my world in ways I never expected." "You've done the same for me," Olivia replied softly. "Before I met you, success was measured in acquisitions and returns," Daniel continued. "Now I understand it's about connection, purpose, and love." He took a deep breath. "I don't want to imagine my life without you in it, Olivia." With those words, he lowered himself to one knee, withdrawing a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a ring of stunning elegance, a central diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught the evening light. "Olivia Zane, would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife?" Emotion welled in Olivia's throat as she looked at this man who had entered her boutique seeking a fragrance and had instead found his way into her heart. "Yes," she managed, tears of joy blurring her vision. "Yes, Daniel, I will marry you." As he slipped the ring onto her finger and rose to embrace her, applause erupted around them. Several passers-by had witnessed the proposal and were offering congratulations. "I hope you don't mind an audience," Daniel murmured against her hair. "I considered something more private, but this place means so much to us." "It's perfect," Olivia assured him. "Absolutely perfect." Their engagement announcement generated more media attention than Olivia had anticipated. Daniel Lancaster, notoriously private billionaire CEO, was suddenly appearing in society pages with his perfumer fiancée. The sudden visibility was jarring, but Daniel helped her navigate the attention with grace. "This will die down," he promised. "The news cycle moves on quickly." In the midst of wedding planning and growing public interest in their relationship, Olivia received extraordinary news. Narrative fragrances had been selected for a prestigious feature in Vogue's annual beauty issue. "They're calling you the nose to watch," Daniel told her, reading from the advance copy he'd somehow procured. "They specifically praise your innovative combinations and storytelling approach to scent creation. The timing couldn't have been better." The Vogue feature coincided with the official launch of narrative fragrances, generating interest that transformed what might have been a quiet debut into a significant industry event. Olivia insisted on keeping her first boutique small, a jewel box space in Soho that reflected her vision of perfume as an intimate art form rather than a mass-market commodity. The opening night saw a line around the block, with fashion editors and fragrance enthusiasts alike eager to experience her creations. As she looked around the crowded boutique, Olivia caught sight of Daniel watching her from across the room, pride evident in his expression. He raised his glass in a silent toast, and she felt a wave of gratitude for the man who had believed in her dreams even before she'd fully articulated them. Their wedding took place 6 months later, an intimate ceremony with only close family and friends at a small shadeout in the French countryside, followed by a reception that celebrated both their heritages. Daniel had insisted on privacy rather than spectacle, understanding that what mattered most was their commitment to each other, not public display. Under a canopy of stars, with the scent of roses and jasmine perfuming the air, they exchanged vows that acknowledged both the serendipity of their meeting and the deliberate choice to build a life together. "I walked into your boutique seeking a fragrance," Daniel said, holding her hands in his. "Instead, I found the other half of my soul. You've taught me that true wealth lies in moments of genuine connection, in shared dreams and quiet understanding. I promise to cherish every day of our journey together, to support your ambitions as if they were my own, and to love you with constancy and devotion for all the days of my life." Olivia's vows spoke of unexpected beginnings and the courage to embrace love across worlds that might have seemed incompatible. "You came into my life when I wasn't looking and saw me truly not just what I was, but what I could become," she said. "You've shown me that love doesn't diminish independence, but strengthens it through support and belief. I promise to be your partner in all things, to create a home filled with warmth and understanding, and to love you completely today and always." As they were pronounced husband and wife, the gathering erupted in joyful celebration. The night unfolded with dancing, laughter, and moments of quiet connection amid the festivity. Later, as they swayed together under the moon, Daniel whispered in her ear, "Do you remember what you said to me that first day in the boutique, about finding a signature scent? I said it should reflect who you are, but also who you aspire to be," Olivia recalled. "You've become my signature," Daniel told her, "the essence that defines my best self and my highest aspirations." "And you've become mine," Olivia replied, resting her head against his chest, hearing the steady heartbeat of the man who had noticed her through a boutique window and changed the course of her life. 2 years later, Narrative Fragrances had grown from a single boutique to an internationally recognized niche brand with a devoted following. Olivia had maintained her commitment to quality over quantity, releasing just 2 collections each year, each telling a cohesive story through scent. Daniel had restructured Lancaster Holdings to allow for more delegation, creating space in his life for what truly mattered. Together, they had established a foundation supporting arts education and entrepreneurship, focusing particularly on helping young women from disadvantaged backgrounds pursue careers in creative fields. Their most meaningful creation, however, was the family they were building. Their daughter, Sophia, had entered the world with her father's amber eyes and her mother's determined spirit. At 18 months old, she was already showing signs of a sensitive nose, delighting in exploring the garden's various scents under her mother's watchful guidance. On a warm Sunday afternoon, Olivia sat in that garden with Sophia on her lap, showing her the different herbs and flowers. Daniel watched them from the terrace of their countryside home, a stone farmhouse they'd renovated together, a retreat from the intensity of New York. "Lavender, sweetheart," Olivia was saying, letting Sophia touch the purple blooms. "Can you smell it? Lavender." "Lava," Sophia attempted, burying her nose in the plant with such enthusiasm that she emerged with pollen dusting her tiny nose. Daniel laughed, joining them on the grass. "She's definitely your daughter. I've never seen anyone so excited about plants." "She's your daughter, too," Olivia pointed out. "Look at how methodically she's examining everything. That's pure Lancaster focus." Daniel gathered them both in his arms, overwhelmed for a moment by the perfection of this life they'd created together. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" Olivia asked, looking up at him. for walking into that boutique," he replied, "for seeing beyond the wealth to the man beneath, for building this life with me." Olivia smiled, remembering the journey that had brought them here from a chance encounter in a perfume boutique to a partnership that spanned love, business, and family. "Thank you for noticing me," she said simply, "for taking the time to see who I really was." As the afternoon sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across their small family tableau, Olivia reflected on the unexpected turns life could take. She had once thought her dreams were limited to creating beautiful fragrances. Instead, she had found something far more precious, a love story with notes of chance and choice, ambition and tenderness, all blending into a harmony more complex and satisfying than any perfume she could ever compose. And like the best fragrances, their story would continue to develop and deepen over time, revealing new facets with each passing year, a signature scent uniquely their own.